My name is Matt Hart. I've been in the technology business for 20 years, ever since college. Half of that I've been in middle management. I've been managing teams of different sizes. I started with a team of 4, team of 20. Started to become global. Had to hire up a bunch of people in Hyderabad. Like I said, ended up with a very large global development organization with people in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, people in Australia, people in Canada, people in Europe, all over the place. And so had a lot of experience with some of the things I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. Right now, currently, I write books. You will all walk away with a copy of the Middlework book that you see here. I also write science fiction. So that's more of a hobby, but I do enjoy that very much. Also, Vice President of Technical Business Solutions at Arise, which I'm sure some of you are doing work for Arise right now, so thank you very much. This is a lot of fun. I've done this a couple of times with people, because we're going to come back to this too. So I want everybody, if you come to this page, we do a lot of hiring, right, in this room. How many people are on the phone hiring people? Well, not as many as I thought, right? But still, you've been looking at resumes. So here's a little cheat sheet resume. I want you to take the next, and we're not going to take the full 10 minutes. We'll do this in 5, right? If someone were hiring, if you were going to hire someone to do what you do today, not what you, no offense to people whose bosses are in the room, not what your boss thinks you do, but what you actually do, right? What you actually do for your company right now. Think about it, right? Be very realistic about what it is. What would you write down if you were going to have a job description to hire someone to do what you do, right? What are the responsibilities? What's the job description? What's the job title? What's the kind of required experience? So take a few minutes to think about yourself, right? About what you do, what's your day look like, right? What are the tasks? What are the activities? What are the results that are demanded of you? And then write down a job description. When you start talking about any sort of thing, particularly the kind of stuff that we work on in a professional setting, it requires more than one person to do. If you're going to make some software, if you're going to launch a product, if you're going to hire a bunch of people to do some servicing for a large, from an IT perspective, you need a team of people. And you got to bind that endeavor together. So Middlework, this is the definition, right? This is the simple definition. Middlework is the calibrating activities. How do you calibrate in the direction required to achieve optimal result? I believe great middle management is not in the surveillance business. We're not here to watch to make sure that individual contributors are doing their job. Now, you may have to do that occasionally. Right? There may be a culture that you have to overcome to get people to stop acting like, hey, it's okay to not do work if someone's not looking over my shoulder. However, the act of saying, hey, I'm just here to watch people do their work, it turns everybody into less of doers and more of reactors. X-management says, it assumes an authoritarian position and says, by definition, all people hate work. And therefore, the only way that I can get work done from anybody, as a manager, as a leader, is to crack the whip. Right? I need to ride people all the time. That's the only way it's going to work. Y management, on the other hand, assumes that the default human position is to want to get things done, right? Is to want to become a master of a skill, is to want to achieve certain results. The natural state is for someone to not hate work, but to rather enjoy it. Why do we care about these calibrating activities? I'll jump to the end here, right? Without a strong middle, sophisticated results take longer, and they have poor quality. You have a middle management layer that says, hey, we're calibrating things, whether it's, and we'll talk about who is the middle manager in a second, but it was saying, hey, if you have strong middle management, project management, product management, you get better results. The quality of your talent matters, the quality of your vision matters, but you can, even those by themselves will not overcome a really lousy middle management. So where do you see it? Anytime there's an endeavor that takes more than one person, you've got middle work, even if you don't have a middle manager. Someone's got to calibrate, right? Someone's got to say, oh, we ran out of money, or the deadline changed, we're going to have to move something out. Someone's always calibrating. Someone's always doing that calibrating work. You don't need a specific person to do it. In fact, oftentimes you'll find that there's not middle work isn't being done by middle managers, right? We talk about a matrix management organization. Oftentimes it's a project manager that's doing the calibrating activities as opposed to the manager. It's not necessarily a role, right? Middle work is a type of work itself. It's these calibrating activities that get us through these obstacles that we've mentioned. So oftentimes it makes a lot of sense, and I'm a big proponent of taking middle work and turning it into a very specific role. It makes a lot of sense, right? But it's important to remember that anybody or any type of situation can end up doing middle work. Here's the 7 behaviors, and I've got this Venn diagram that I use to kind of talk about it, because there's different behavior intensities. But here's the 7, okay? If you're going to be great in middle management, here's the things the behaviors you have to have. You've got to be focused on the greater good. And I'll go through these in a second. You absolutely have to always seek reality. You've got to be committed to listening. And this is sort of what we're hinting at very, very carefully, very closely here, right? You have to be committed to listening. It must maintain composure at all times. This is one that I think gets downplayed too often. And we'll talk specifically about it. At the same time as you're maintaining composure, you've got to display courage. There are acts of courage every day in middle management that often, again, go neglected but are important. Flexibility is a cliche, but it's important. It is one. You must remain flexible at all times. You may not know all the facts. You may not have everything. Right? And finally, in the end, you must be capable of acting decisively. There is no greater horrible misperception around middle managers than one that they can never make a decision. They're always like, I don't know, maybe I'll go ask somebody. Well, let's wait another week and we'll have another meeting, and then from that meeting we'll have another meeting, and then maybe decisiveness and being able to in the end pass judgment on a situation is what separates great middle managers from just plain old managers. You write down some of what is your personal greater good. Write down what is the professional one. How are you internalizing the needs of the endeavor? Are there any conflicts, right? What are the conflicts between these things? Number 2, we have to seek reality at all times. If we do not seek reality as middle managers, we are lost. You need to be listening for and oftentimes taking notes on the different dynamics that are taking place, particularly if you're running a team of a larger size, right? You have to be doing the act of thinking about it. What does it mean? What does all this data mean, right? What if the team doesn't have a lot of buy-in? Are they burned out? Are they overutilized, right? Are they underutilized? So focus on the greater good. Seek reality. 3rd, commit to listening. Listening comes down to 3 things that are going to be expressed, okay? There's not, when someone's talking to you, right, there's words coming out of their mouth, and you hear those words. But it's not the only thing that's being expressed, okay? But also, you got to listen for what the person's not telling you, right? Right? Particularly in a project situation, perhaps you're getting a readout, right? There can be an intentional or unintentional omission, but you must always be listening, not just for what they're telling you, but what they're not telling you. And finally, you must be listening for what that person's emotional state is. It's important, in my book, when we talk about why management, not X, not authoritarian. We talk about trusting. Trust is a two-way door, right? you need to trust first. And assume positive intent. Don't assume someone's omitting something because they're trying to lie. They're trying to do something that's evil, right? It may just be something else that's taking place. And so when you're listening, listen for those things, but always assume positive intent. Because if you assume the opposite, you'll train people to have negative intent. That's all you'll do is they'll train your entire team to do that. Close partner to committing to listening is maintaining our composure. It is hard to overestimate and overstate how important this one behavior can be to great management. But neutral is the right word. You want to keep yourself calm and collected at all times. This is a major component of knowing your own emotional state, but also finding a mechanism to clear that emotional state out so that you can do your job and do the calibrations you need to do without sending the team running for the hills. Because you're always frustrated. Your voice is always raised, right? You're always in a state of anger and pointing fingers and getting in people's faces. It just doesn't work. We need to display some courage, right? Because there's a conflict of interest that's going to be bad. But I'm going to remain flexible because there's going to have to be something that's going to be necessary. I'm going to have to flex to make that happen as well, right? But if we stay focused on the facts and we seek reality, we should be able to overcome that. But it's going to take a calibration. We're going to have to do something about that problem. Because if you just let it sit, then we're not doing our job. We're not doing the middle work. Right? Now, there's courage, there's self-confidence, and there's also this thing we call living to fight another day, right? Or as sometimes we say, like, sometimes you lose a battle because you're winning a larger war, right? So very, very, very important to understand that the courage that you need to have also needs to get balanced against some of the other needs, right? And I say this, and this is important to some of the conversations we've already had. Courage without diplomacy is intimidation, right? If you're not being diplomatic about what you're doing, if you're not removing your ego out of the situation, sometimes courage just comes across as you trying to intimidate somebody. Flexibility is important. And this is the other side of taking your ego out of your head when you're in a situation. Flexibility, in my opinion, starts with the ability to admit when you've made a mistake. Know that you don't know everything about the world. You don't have all the information. You don't know what's going on. You need to get more information. And we're told in life in a lot of ways, look, you can't pass judgment on anybody, right? We shouldn't be passing judgment. And that's true, right? You don't want to jump to judgment. But there is the moment that comes, particularly in the middle management, when you're trying to do all this calibration, one, you've got to make a decision. You have to. You can't defer it too long. There's bad outcomes. There's a lot of calibrations, but you can essentially roll them up into these 6 at the end of the day. You're responsible for intra-team cohesion, right? How's everybody inside your team working? There's inter-team. If I have to work with other teams, how am I doing with other peers? How are the teams working together? There's top-down direction, right? Your boss says, thou shalt do, and you say, sir, yes, sir, right? This is trickier than it sounds. Bottom-up direction, right? This is that fact-gathering behavior that says, oh, I'm learning things from the people actually doing the work, and I need to get that passed up the chain. There's somebody in upper leadership who needs to know of this interesting thing or a particular obstacle. So that bottom-up direction and calibrating your activity based on information you're finding out below, such as, hey, it's going to take 5 months to do something. It's not going to take 3 months. We didn't know that before, but now we do. There's always the super fun act of budget changes, right? And in the end, number one job, timelines, deadlines.